West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
So, Andrew, let's just start with you and the Judge Cannon and the new reporting from the Times. I don't think I've heard anyone really kind of answer this aspect of this case. How unusual is it for a judge to ask another judge to give up a case? And in this case, two judges weighed in and said, Eileen, stand down.
Extremely unusual to have judges ask a coordinate judge to stand down. Here, the reporting is that it is the chief judge of that district who would have that kind of responsibility, would feel that sort of obligation. And it wouldn't be for political reasons. It would be the fact that the judge is, quite inexperienced for a case of this nature. And of course, her inexperience showed because she was reversed not once, but twice by the 11th Circuit in the pretrial phase, during the investigative phase. And that inexperience is showing, even if you just thought there was no bias, which I think there is lots of evidence for, but even if you just thought of it in terms of inexperience, she has more pretrial motions backed up. It's like, we're in the height of the summer. A good way to think about this is like LaGuardia Airport on a holiday weekend with planes stacked up on the tarmac waiting to take off. She has so many pretrial motions pending that she has not gotten to. And then instead of saying, okay, I really need help doing this, I could get a magistrate to help, I could get other judges to give me advice about how to handle it, she's not doing any of that. She's keeping all of it on her docket, has not scheduled it, and then says, the reason I can't schedule a trial is because I haven't gotten to all of that work.
It is absolutely amazing to me, Lisa, in the sense that you've got Judge Cannon, who seemingly is spending a lot of time scrutinizing everyone else and every other aspect of this campaign, listen to me, of this trial, except the defendant himself, who's accused of illegally retaining classified documents. What are we missing here?
I don't think you're missing very much, Michael, at all. And in fact, one of the things that has folks like me scratching our heads is that in terms of how she's allocating her time to that backlog of motions that Andrew was just discussing, she, for example, gave almost 2 full days to the question of whether Jack Smith was lawfully appointed. But when Jack Smith went to her and said, we need to modify Trump's bail conditions because his speech is threatening the safety of people involved in the investigation, Judge Cannon said, literally, you can have 2 hours this coming Tuesday. So the fact that she is allocating her time in the way that she is, given the gravity of the situation. Jack Smith's office just told her, for example, the other day, hey, we need you to modify these conditions because there was a real threat aimed at an FBI official on June 11th. This is not speculative or conjectural. This is imminent and real. And yet, how is Judge Cannon spending her time? Thinking about whether Jack Smith was lawfully appointed in ways that the Supreme Court and 2 circuit courts in recent years have already considered and rejected. It's just baffling, Michael.
So baffling is an understatement when it comes to the actions of this particular judge, Andrew. As Lisa mentioned, there's also a hearing tomorrow that's going to deal with Jack Smith's request for a gag order on Trump. Given the fact that Trump has been making these false claims that the FBI was out to kill him during the search of Mar-a-Lago, help us understand exactly what this is that we're watching unfold here. Smith's words, sounds like, there's something else going on here, that a posse of, significant, and imminent foreseeable danger to law enforcement is his argument, while Donald Trump is like saying, no, they were coming to get me. How can Judge Cannon justify not taking actions on this aspect of it?
So I think here she is playing with fire. There are 2 motions pending having to do with Donald Trump's statements that can lead to sort of imminent danger. One is in New York related to the gag order there. The other is before Judge Cannon. And this is one, as Lisa pointed out, the judge has been so cavalier in the way that she has handled this, the timing of it, delaying actually having a hearing, initially even rejecting the filing that was made on the ground that there wasn't sufficient conferral with the other side. I mean, that is the kind of sort of actions that I think if she rejects this application, it will be something that I think Jack Smith will feel obligated to take to the 11th Circuit. Remember, that circuit has already overruled Judge Cannon twice in scathing language. And if she does this again here, she has to know that that kind of behavior and that sort of disrespect for safety of law enforcement is precisely the kind of thing that Jack Smith will feel obligated to take up on appeal, and is the kind of thing that could really get her, depending on the panel, the judges sitting on the matter in the 11th Circuit, could really get her in hot water. And it could not be more serious. And it's the reason you see judges like Judge Merchan in New York taking such serious steps to make sure that the former president of the United States is not endangering people who are just doing their jobs.
Lisa, the final point to you. There's a lot of frustration out across the country with all of this. You're watching Judge Cannon slow roll this trial. You're watching the Supreme Court slow roll its decision on presidential immunity. A lot of Americans feel that there's no recourse. We're just sitting back, just watching this thing play out. Put that in context for us if you can. I mean, you've done some excellent reporting and coverage on this from the very, very beginning. And I sense have a feel for how this is translating for a lot of the American people outside of the bubble of either side, the Trump MAGA world and those who want to see him go down. Real people out there are concerned about how this is playing out.
Real people are definitely concerned. And I think one of the things, Michael, that real people are seeing is that delay is the decision in some cases, that the delay occasioned by, for example, the Supreme Court not taking Jack Smith's invitation to have an appeal directly on presidential immunity, but instead hold it off until the DC Circuit acted, and then not expediting briefing, but really taking their time with the case, or Judge Cannon slow walking all of the motions that continue to pile up before her. That in and of itself constitutes a real decision that folks are concerned about. And I think the other thing that folks are concerned about is, of course, these people have lifetime tenure and there is no recourse for delay. You can't appeal delay, nor can you ask for a recusal based on delay alone. In fact, the 11th Circuit has recently been inundated with complaints from people in the public who said, you should remove Judge Cannon from this case based on the fact that she is failing to take action. And in a very short order, the Chief Judge of the Circuit, Bill Pryor, said, look, delay is not, under our rules, a basis for getting somebody out of a decision, getting someone off a case. So I think the American people, if they are concerned about these kinds of delay, they are the ones who can take action. Only their choices at the ballot box can start to reverse some of what we see as delay actually resulting in almost a decision in the former president's favor. The only way to reverse this is for the people to take action themselves and elect a president who will appoint judges who will consider the rule of law and take it seriously.
It is Monday, the 24th of June of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner the English Bulldog is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, the little Yorkie, is our door girl, and she's resting at the moment, as you know, because as we will fill you in on progress. So, in the meantime, we will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special, River City Hash Mondays. It's been a week. Oh my gosh, a whole week since we've been away. And thank you for your patience. And we're back. Had a few glitches on the mothership equipment. Just mostly things need to be rebooted, and there was a little bit of a schedule so it would have the least amount of impact. So those were missed. Sorry. Anyway, we weren't here to do it, and as we move forward, though, we're gonna get a few other pieces of equipment, and we can do as we used to do back in the day, take it on the road. I had mentioned quite a while ago, this year, about how we used to be able to manipulate one machine from another machine afar. And the program that we had was LogMeIn. And I'm trying to remember, maybe it was because LogMeIn wanted us to pay or something. I don't know. Why you're going to have us pay? We have a principle. We have a mission statement, only to take free software. Well, sometimes free software isn't enough, and we pay for the WavePad Masters Edition because, well, it's the only one that really works for what we need to do here to handcraft Netroots Radio. That's right. We try to avoid the robot. That's not to say that robots might at some point have, a soul. Will they? We'll see. But we try to, keep the whole robot thing at bay and leave it up to the chaos of the human mind, which is, well, I'm just going to say, we'll leave it at that. Anyway, we do need to have a certain level of automation and a certain level of being able to, connect from afar. And we can do that, but we need a little bit more equipment to be able to do that. So in the future, we will, when I say in the future, I mean in the near future, not at the moment, but we will. So, as you know, the reason we were gone for a week is that we were down in Southern California, the upper desert, for my mom's celebration of life down there. And then we're going to have another celebration of life here in the gardens of the mothership. And we'll have family and friends and neighbors over for, well, now don't be offended out there. Okay, we're going to have ribs and we're going to have chicken. Okay, and a few other things too, but that's going to be the protein. Sorry. But, because I got a lot of ribs and, people don't eat ribs, you can have some chicken. Okay, there you go. Kids, chicken, whatever well, I'm not doing hot dogs. I used to, but I'm not going to. Okay, so we put that aside. It's not like it's foie gras, okay, which I also like. Sue me. Anyway, it was cathartic, and it was okay. It was, I don't want to say fun, but it was okay. And I got to visit my dad, which is good because he's 96. And good old guy. He's deteriorated. When I say deteriorated, his brain is degraded, and he chuckles about it a little bit, as he is wont to do. But he actually, we had a nice conversation, and he asked me about a few things that I wasn't expecting him to ask me about. He asked about the radio station and the show. That was nice. But one, pardon me, all of a sudden I had a little frog in my throat there. One, I guess, symptom of dementia is that the short-term memory is impacted tremendously, and it's really difficult to remember, what you did a few months ago or last week, yada, yada, yada. Maybe Dad has that, but he didn't seem to have it as bad as I was expecting, even from our visit when we were all gathered for his birthday in February. But one of the other, effects is that the long-term memory sometimes is not affected, and people can remember in quite vivid detail, what they did when they were pursuing a butterfly on one particular summer's day. I'm serious. So I was able to clarify a few things about, using that part of the cerebellum. But once again, he just, Dad, yeah, sure. I mean, he's maybe not going to be able to teach effectively because he can't stand up. He's in bed now. But his mind, I don't know. It was stellar. And I'm not just saying that because he's my dad. So we said bye to Mom down there, and it being in, it's Southern California, so you got the Southern California life, and the kids, my niece, my sister's daughter, we had it at her place, and my youngest sister's daughter, so we had it at Lorena's place in Apple Valley there, just, not too far from Victorville. And it was great. And, met extended family, and a lot of Mom's friends came up, and, because it's not too far. It's just, everybody's used to driving. I never thought about how far things were. I just thought about how long it would take. You deal with time down there, not distance. So, but people made the trek all the way from the beach communities, and it was great. So the one thing that, well, I'll just tell you, is that it was actually kind of neat in a way, and that was my niece and her friends had a bunch of balloons made up, with a little nice going away message. And then we released the balloons and watched it as they were taken by the desert winds into the atmosphere. And they weren't really scattered about. They kind of flew in a formation for quite a while. Now, I only mention that is because I would never release balloons into the atmosphere. It was up to me. It's going to end up, well, those of you who listen to Tim Corrimal's show that I was on just this last episode here that we recorded on Sunday will have heard this already, but it's going to end up in a bird's gullet. It just is. Okay. Or another life form's abdomen. Yep, digestive tract. Yeah, that's what you want. So I don't do that. Throwing up fireworks in the sky to announce the gender of your child. Yeah. I had it in my mind. I didn't care. This is before you even knew or could tell what the gender of the child was going to be. The imaging just wasn't that great. You could kind of tell, but you still couldn't. I didn't care. When we decided to have a baby, I didn't care it was going to be a boy or a girl. Give me a break. My in-laws did because they had 5 girls. They always wanted a boy. They kept getting a girl. I thought, well, why would you care? It's a baby. So I got a boy. And I don't know. First boy in that family for quite a while, too. At least maybe not on Glenn's side, but I'm just saying. I had a lot of girls on that side of the family. Not just counting the 5, right there. It seemed like girls were the predominant gender in that family. They wanted a boy. I didn't care. I used to say I just wanted a healthy child. And then I started thinking, you know what? Even if my child wasn't so healthy, I would still love my child. What kind of ghoul wouldn't? A ghoul wouldn't. That's exactly what I mean. On the other hand, what kind of ghoul wouldn't? Who knows? I've been a ghoul in other parts of my life. I am sorry. I didn't mean it. I don't know. I'm not going to say that either, because I probably meant it at the time. Oh, what else happened? Stayed at the Hilton Garden Inn in Victorville. Now, Victorville is where the Roy Rogers and Dale Evans Museum is. And there's a aviation museum and Edwards Air Force Base, too. So, now Hiltons have, like their own little bar and little restaurant, diner, not diner, but, it's hotel dining. And let me just interject here, too, is that one of my complaints about hotel dining is that the cooks, the chefs, they're so afraid to season the food. They will not put any salt on the food unless you put it on yourself. And I hate that. I used to tell young chefs, now, just bear with me. I'm sorry if you feel insulted. I apologize. But we're talking about food here and palates. I told young chefs that if you're not a smoker, do not be afraid to season your food. Just do not. But if you are a smoker, season less than what you think. And it's only from long experience. Okay? I'm just saying. So in hotel dining, they just won't season the food at all. Can you throw a little bit of oregano on this? Well, they did have basil, which I got to say, whatever basil they were getting, it was damn tasteless because I grow fragrant, lovely licorice-y basil of different types too. Thai. We got two different types of Thai basil going right now. Then I've got the standard English, and then I've got an Italian. I'm just saying. So standard English, standard Italian, and then I've got an English one. I know, odd. So back to the Hilton Garden Inn in Victorville, California, which is in the upper desert. Got to drive through the Mojave if you're coming through the Tehachapi's. First, you have to go through the Mojave. Yikes. Okay, well, it's all the Mojave, actually. Oh, my God. I hadn't been that route in forever. Anyway, from sitting in the little restaurant bar area and, talking to a few of the guests and the staff, my impressions about Victorville is that people don't go to Victorville unless they have to. Oh, I know I wouldn't. In fact, I was thinking the only reason I started going to Victorville in the first place is because I had family that decided to move there. Why? I guess because the land was cheap and, housing was affordable. And now, since urban sprawl has sprawled, property values have gone up in some ways. And so I guess it's an okay investment for all involved. So, okay, fine. So, I took Little Precious because, as you know, we're still awaiting the test results on whether what she has is cancer or not. Right now, she's being treated for steroidal meningitis, meaning it's the type of meningitis that is not contagious and can be or is addressed by using steroids. So she's on prednisone, and I guess an antibiotic, Blaxilin, something like that, Blaxilin. And so she seems to have responded lovely and quite dramatically to it. Dr. Dickey, the vet, did warn us, as I have mentioned before we left. I'm just reminding you that steroids can affect a tumor and make her, feel better, but it's it's not getting rid of the tumor, and sometimes the tumor responds by getting mad. Like a rhizome. You pulled on me, I'll show you. And a rhizome will. So cancer, keep your fingers crossed. As I've been telling people, is really odd. Keep your fingers crossed and hoping that it's only meningitis. Jeez. But yesterday, she was just so listless, and I don't know. Maybe it was the heat. Maybe she just got too hot because it's been ungodly hot here. I'm used to it, but, maybe, with the steroids and, she needs to drink more, so I'm making sure she is hydrated. She has to pee and all that. But she wouldn't eat. I couldn't even get her to take her, what I'm presuming is the antibiotic, the Blaxilin. I don't have the pill case in here. It's out in the kitchen area where I feed her, because I can hide that in her food. The prednisone is in a liquid form, and I put it in a little syringe, and she didn't really like it. But yesterday, she took the liquid and didn't fight me or anything. So I was really quite worried. But then later in the day, she went and ate her food and ate the medicine that she was supposed to eat. She was up early today with me and insisted that she get some food down. And so I got her to get her antibiotic down, and I'm giving her prednisone in a couple of more hours just to sort of get it close to where it was yesterday. I know the antibiotic's supposed to be done in a timely fashion too, but when she eats, I want to make sure she's getting the meds too. But I'm just saying this, it's that she was like a lot friskier this morning. She's sleeping now. That's why we seated you in this salon that we call West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. And of course, we're in the Bistro Cafe of that salon. Yes, indeed. Okay, well, we have gone for quite some time, and we've been doing that quite a bit. Used to be just a, quick little whatever in the beginning, and then we'd get down to brass tacks and give you the news read. But that is After all, just a news read, dressed up in our indelible fashion. Because we like to dress it up that way, indelibly. Okay, but regardless, Precious traveled with me through the Mojave Desert, the post fires down there where Castaic is. That's how I usually go. I didn't want to go through the smoke if the fires were abated enough to drive through. So I didn't want her to experience that. I didn't want to experience it. We've been quite lucky here, even though there is a 5,000, I know, some big enough wildfire in the Applegate, which is not too far from where we are in Rogue River. They're talking about the evacuations of a small little hamlet or two there in the Applegate. And but the smoke from that, cross my fingers, and I guess now that I'm mentioning it, is karma. But it hasn't been blowing our way, and we've had quite lovely air a bit longer in the season than we've had in previous wildfire seasons. But there was the Sonoma fire, which was quite huge when I was driving down on I-5. And then when we got to Bakersfield, we decided to cut across on the 58 and take that to the 15, which is just a straighter run shot. There's a way to go back on, I guess, on the western side of Edwards Air Force Base at 395, but there's a few what I call surface streets that I didn't want to figure out, even though Google was saying, go there. No, thank you. I'll take the 15 to the 58, or I'll take the 58 to the 15, and then heads towards LA. And I did. So, but little Precious, she made me stop and get out of the car and walk her around pee, and she held it like a champ. And she was a good little traveler. She traveled quite well. And we stayed in 2 different motels, one on the way down, and then stopped at Lathrop, which is right near Stockton, just past Stockton on the way down. Decided to take the return trip in one fell swoop. Went to bed early and got up relatively early on Thursday, and got out of Victorville about 8:30. And so we just decided, because the little Precious and I were together, we decided, we'll just drive, see if we can do it. And we did. But she had me get out of the car and stretch my legs, and I think that helped the trip go lovely. All right, but we're all back safe and sound, and moving on with what we have to do with life and love and responsibility. So now that we've gotten that out of the way and we've left really little time to get this news read in, I better let you know what we have in store for you so that you can at least go to the Daily Co's show notes and links diary and read the full articles, because we may have to abbreviate a bit. Anyway, at the top, that pretrial backlog that Canon has is, like LaGuardia on a holiday. I don't know, it's like LaGuardia at any day. It's only worse on a holiday. Even worse. On the rest of the menu, the FBI, speaking of which, has offered a reward for information about those responsible for igniting a pair of New Mexico wildfires that killed 2 people and destroyed hundreds of homes just in this past week. Abortion access has won when it's been on the ballot, and that's why half the states are working hard to keep it off. And a Wisconsin judge is expected to consider whether to allow people with disabilities to vote electronically from home this November. The Republicans are going to hate that because they hate voting in general, but they're going to make it easy on those people to vote. They won't like it at all. Well, after the break, we then move to the chef's table, where the investigation of the Russian hack on London hospitals earlier in the month may take weeks to complete. Even more weeks. And right-wing Reform UK Party leader Nigel Farage is facing wide-ranging criticism over his claim that the West provoked Putin to invade Ukraine. And that's exactly what Vlad says. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Well, of course, since we had the exceedingly long welcome back, we're going to tuck into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy River City Hash Mondays, and it is by the staff of the Associated Press. Federal authorities offered a reward for information about those responsible for igniting a pair of New Mexico wildfires that killed 2 people and destroyed hundreds of homes in the past week. The FBI on Saturday offered up to the enormous sum of $10,000. Boy, I think they should put a few more coins in there, but regardless, they would like information in connection with the South Fork Fire and Salt Fire in southern New Mexico, which forced thousands to flee. An agency statement said it was seeking public assistance in identifying the cause of the fires near Rio Doso, New Mexico, that were discovered on June 17. The notice also pointedly suggested human hands were to blame, saying the reward was for information leading to the arrest and conviction of, quote, the person or persons responsible for starting the fires. The South Fork Fire, which reached 26 square miles, was 26% contained late Saturday. The Salt Fire, at 12 square miles, was only 7% contained as of Saturday morning. Kimberly Cruzy, Christine Fernando, and Leah Willingham of the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Tucked inside the West Virginia State House is a copy of a petition to lawmakers with a simple request. Let the voters decide whether to reinstate legal access to abortion. The request has been ignored by the Republican lawmakers who have supermajority control in the legislature and banned abortions in the state in 2022, shortly after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned a constitutional right to the procedure. They took away rights. The petition, with more than 25,000 signatures, is essentially meaningless given the current makeup of the legislature, but it illustrates the frustratingly limited options millions of Americans face in trying to reestablish abortion rights as the country marks the 2-year anniversary since the Supreme Court's ruling. West Virginia is among the 25 states that do not allow citizen initiatives or constitutional amendments on a statewide ballot, an avenue of direct democracy that has allowed voters to circumvent their legislatures and preserve abortion and other reproductive rights in a number of states over the past 2 years. Republicans there have repeatedly dismissed the idea of placing an abortion rights measure before voters, which in West Virginia is a step only lawmakers can take, of course. It makes you wonder what they're so afraid of, said Democratic delegate Kayla Young, one of only 16 women in the West Virginia legislature. If they feel so strongly that if they feel so strongly that this is what people believe, prove it. The court's ruling to overturn Roe v. Wade was praised by abortion opponents as a decision that returned the question to the states. Trump, who named 3 of the justices who overturned Roe, has repeatedly claimed the people are now the ones deciding abortion access. The people are deciding, he said during a recent interview with Sean Hannity, and in many ways it's a beautiful thing to watch. But that's not true everywhere. In states allowing the citizen initiative and where abortion access has been on the ballot, voters have resoundingly affirmed the right to abortion. Voters in 7 states, including conservative ones such as Kentucky, Montana, and Ohio, have either protected abortion rights or defeated attempts to curtail them in statewide votes over the past 2 years. Reproductive rights supporters are trying to put citizen initiatives on the ballot in several states this year, but voters don't have a direct say in about half the states. That is particularly true for those living in the South with Republican-controlled legislatures. Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy River City Hash Mondays. A Wisconsin judge today is expected to consider whether to allow people with disabilities to vote electronically from home in the swing state this fall. Disability Rights Wisconsin, the League of Women Voters, and 4 disabled people filed a lawsuit in April demanding disabled people be allowed to cast absentee ballots electronically from home. They asked Dane County Circuit Judge Everett Mitchell to issue a temporary injunction before the lawsuit is resolved, granting the accommodation in the state's August 13 primary and November presidential election. Mitchell scheduled a hearing today on the injunction. Questions over who can cast absentee ballots and where they can do it have become a political flashpoint in Wisconsin, where 4 of the past 6 presidential elections have been decided by less than a percentage point. They keep disabled people from voting. That adds up to quite a fraction of a percentage at least. All right, that brings us to our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. This week, full of grace. 15 minutes into writer-director Dina Uniunas Pusic's feature film debut, Tuesday, I was thinking, how did this movie get made? Well, turns out, not by us. Kind of. It's produced by BBC Films and BFI, the British Film Institute, but it also got money from Cinereach, a New York-based indie film grant organization, and, most importantly, A24, the company that's backed Lady Bird, Moonlight, Midsummer, Uncut Gems, Problemista, You Hurt My Feelings, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Thank goodness for A24. And British tax dollars for helping give us this weird and impactful film. So, you have Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Zora, and London-based Nigerian actor Arinze Kene as a supernatural creature, and Irish actor Lola Pettigrew playing Tuesday, Zora's bedridden 15-year-old, very ill, constantly in pain daughter. But I don't want to give much more of a summary than that, because I went in knowing next to nothing, and really enjoyed having this movie surprise me. You never learn what Tuesday's illness is, you never find out Zora's job. They're in Britain, but where? Don't stress it. Uniunas Pusic is telling our story with broad strokes because she's much more invested in constructing a quiet surreality than a detailed reality. It reminded me of Being John Malkovich, even though it's not a wry satiric comedy. Although a lot of critics are writing about the comedy in it, and I guess so. It's certainly not laugh out loud. It's more like the comedy of unexpected juxtaposition, an ironic understatement. Speaking of juxtaposition, Tuesday is boldly fantastical and yet solidly grounded, a powerful combination. Even when I said, what are they doing? I always understood why and what was at stake. Tuesday feels so grand and yet so tiny. I'll have to wait before I see it again, but I'm so glad it was there for me to see in the first place. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. Catch up with us at take2moviereview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
We're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government buy-in for the people. A Nevada county judge threw out a case against the state's 6 accused 2020 fake electors June 21st, not on the merits, but citing an inappropriate venue for the case. The state attorney general vows to appeal. Nevada is one of 5 states which brought charges against at least some of the alleged participants in the scheme to overturn the election of President Joe Biden. Cases in Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona are ongoing. But Friday, Clark County Judge Mary Kay Holthus dismissed the case against the 6 alleged conspirators in Nevada. The Nevada Current reports that the defense attorney for state GOP Chair Michael McDonald argued that despite his client's residence and the state GOP's office in Clark County, the actual signing of the document took place in Douglas County, 430 miles away. The judge agreed, stating, "I don't see any way I have jurisdiction over this case." Complicating the prosecution further, the Nevada Independent reports that the Nevada statute of limitations on forgery expired last December, making a change of venue unlikely. The Independent also reports that there were arguments made in the case as to whether forgery was even the right charge, since the document, while containing false information, was not forged. Nevada Attorney General Aaron Ford told reporters that he would appeal the case to the Nevada Supreme Court. We've linked to the great local reporting at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy River City Hash Mondays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 58 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting highs around 90. They say that could be 89. They say it could be 92. Well, it's going to be hot regardless. Not as hot as it had been, but hot nonetheless. So sunny conditions throughout the day with winds out of the west-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Clear skies overnight with lows in the mid-50s. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then mainly sunny and hot tomorrow with highs in the mid-90s or above. Winds out of the west-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Grass pollen is rated very high in Rogue River proper. The air quality index for the region is in the good range at 20 parts per million. And the daytime UV index is very high at level 9, and you know to take care with those numbers, even if they're not that high. Barometric pressure is falling at 30.01 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles. And relative humidity is at 72%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is 80 degrees and partly cloudy. That's hot for London. Paris is 82 and sunny. Rome is 80 degrees and partly cloudy with a thunderstorm advisory. Bagram, Kabul, Afghanistan is 73 and clear. Hong Kong is 76 degrees with rain. Tokyo is 79 and partly cloudy. Central Auckland, New Zealand, because my friends moved from Australia because of the problems there, and they moved to much, peaceful climes in Auckland. The temperature there is 52, and looks like it's mostly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 58 and fair. Chicago, Illinois is 77 and sunny, and New York is 80 degrees Fahrenheit and partly cloudy. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Peelis at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays. An investigation into a ransomware attack earlier this month on London hospitals by the Russian group Keelan could take weeks to complete, the country's state-run National Health Service said late Friday, as concerns grow over a reported data dump of patient records. Hundreds of operations and appointments are still being canceled more than 2 weeks after the June 3rd attack on NHS provider Synovis, which provides pathology services primarily in southeast London. The attack affected King's College and Guy's and St. Thomas's Hospital Trusts, which run several South London hospitals, as well as clinics and doctors' practices across a swath of the city. A memo to staff called it a critical incident and said it had a major impact on services, particularly blood transfusions. And NHS England said that it has been made aware that data connected to the attack have been published online. According to the BBC, Quillen shared almost 400 gigabytes of data, including patient names, dates of birth, and descriptions of blood tests on their darknet site and Telegram channel. The National Crime Agency and National Cybersecurity Center are working to verify the data included in the published files as quickly as possible, NHS England said in a statement. These files are not simple uploads, and so investigations of this nature are highly complex and can take weeks, if not longer, to complete. Like Dan Peelis was the only one working the World Desk over the weekend at the Associated Press, because they also bring us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Nigel Farage, leader of the right-wing Reform UK party, is facing wide-ranging criticism across the political spectrum. Well, wide-ranging already says that, doesn't it? Well, silly me. Over his claim that the West provoked Putin to invade Ukraine, including of being an appeaser. In a BBC television interview broadcast over the weekend, Farage, who is seeking to woo voters away from Britain's governing Conservatives at the July 4 general election, drew a link between the expansion of NATO and the EU eastwards over the past few decades and the invasion, claiming that he warned of a potential war in Ukraine in 2014 when he was a member of the European Parliament. Farage said, "We provoked this war. It's unclear whether his warning came from before or after Russia had annexed the Crimea Peninsula from Ukraine in February of 2014. It was obvious to me that the ever-eastward expansion of NATO and the European Union was giving this man a reason to his Russian people to say They're coming for us again and to go to war, Farage said in a really shitty English accent, but hey, he deserves it. It's, of course, it's his fault. He's used what we've done as an excuse. Farage's critics from across the political spectrum slammed his statement, with many describing him as a Putin apologist. Well, the facts are the facts now, aren't they? Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Tarrytown Chowder Tuesday. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théères, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.